I know you had COVID. How's that doing, Lilith?
I still feel a little bit sick. My throat's a little bit but
Imagine catching COVID at this stage. Embarrassing.
This would be like my like fourth time having it. I want to maintain my pure unvaccinated genes. They're gonna be worth something someday.
Wait, are you really not vaccinated?
Yeah, just out of laziness.
I see.
I
Yeah,
mean, but back when all the vaccine, like you have to get it, like back when that was going around, I was just like, I'll just stay inside. I'm a YouTuber. I don't gotta go out. It's just a regular cold at this point, at least for me. I'm gonna assume it's natural immunity doing its thing. I had one really bad
it's
time.
like there's an entire like fog in your head. It's still there for me. I mean, I'm getting at like the.
I think it's just being.
I'm the worst part of the COVID is over for me, but it's like
Long
the
COVID,
fog
Lilith.
is still there a little bit.
Get
See,
to the clear.
It's kind of funny because like I had COVID really early on and it was like nothing, but then the second time I had COVID was fucking brutal. I think it was Delta, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I was fucked. I was like out for a week and I had the brain fog. I could like feel my heartbeat in my head, just like because my sinuses were so swollen, they're just pounding. But that lasted a week and then I was fine, and then COVID number 3 was fine, and then this like it feels like a reasonably bad cold, but it's not a big deal. I never had any long COVID symptoms or anything like that. It's always just kind of passed.
Yeah, neither did I. Look at these reviews. 18,000, only 3 stars.
Yeah, man.
That's right. Have you seen House of the Dragon?
I have.
Okay, what did you think of?
I actually enjoyed it. It has its problems, but it's still like a pretty decent show.
I'm enjoying it quite a lot, but also I think it is very like soap opera-y. It's
Yeah,
very
it
just
is.
like these women and their drama and who's fucking who.
I've been struggling to figure out why it feels a bit strange to me, and I think what it is is that Game of Thrones took place like fucking everywhere. This is just centered on King's Landing.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that like there isn't a ton of diversity as far as like in Game of Thrones, you had all these different groups and they all had like very different approaches and cultures and beliefs. And I think that made it very interesting to look at like the Starks and to be like, oh, okay, I can see like this like noble lineage and approach to doing things that is like very unique to them. Whereas I think that a lot of the Targaryens just feel sort of like samey, and the conflicts are very they're very similar across characters because everyone is sort of in the same area. Everyone is sort of vying for the same sorts of things. You don't really get these characters with like totally different arcs or goals or approaches to doing things.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've also been watching Star Wars Andor, and that's actually a decent show too. Maybe we're finally pulling up from all the garbage TV we've been getting.
You watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners stuff?
Not yet.
No?
I hear it's good though.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think it's a little bit overhyped. But I'm also not the biggest fan of anime, so that might be like a personal thing.
What?
Yeah, I've never been able to get into anime. I tried watching Death Note.
That's a good one,
and
actually. That's actually really good.
Sword Art Online.
That's not so good.
And I think that there's this like meme that has gone around continually, and I think it really articulates why I struggle with anime, which is that like different people have different tolerances for anime bullshit, and I think I have like a very low tolerance for anime bullshit.
Well, what caused you to stop watching Death Note? That's a very smart show, that one.
I thought that like it was a long time ago, but I remember, I don't know how to articulate it.
You should watch it again then, because that's
Perhaps so.
that is one of the big brain animes. There's only a few of them out there, and Death Note's one of them.
I guess. So
I mean,
you know,
at
like
what
when
point
you
in the
watch,
show did you drop it?
I don't remember. I think that like my problem with it it's like the problem that I've kind of had with like Sherlock Holmes or like House or whatever, where you
Okay.
have these like very big brain characters who are like solving mysteries. And sometimes I think that like the way that they solved it was like a little bit cheap. And I think that was my issue. But I can't think of like a specific moment that made me think that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've heard Death Note compared to those shows a lot, and in my opinion, Death Note never gets as cheap as those shows. Like there's some pretty cheap Sherlock moments, but Death Note always feels like it's earned to me.
Yeah, I think that it's, from what I remember, I think that it's better than those shows. But that was like, it was the same feeling that made me ended up dropping it.
And to be fair, like I also really like Attack on Titan.
See,
And
I do kind of want to watch that because
but that one, like, it takes a long time to get good. Like, you're going to be sitting through like 24 episodes of setup before the show really takes off.
I was
But it's good.
watching it as it was coming up before even like the major plot points dropped.
Are we wait? Is Arch going to be here? He was like wiffle waffling.
I have no idea. Last I spoke to him, it sounded like he was like, yeah, I'll make it. But now it looks like maybe not.
Oh, God. Arch.
When do we normally start? In like 1 minute?
Yeah.
We give him 10 minutes to see if he's alive, but he might be dead.
Well, here's the thing. Lilith has COVID, and
That sounds fun.
I probably have COVID, and I know Arch has it. So if Arch is the one who pussies out, we all gotta razz him for it. Man, I'm just like wrapped up in sickness at the moment. Okay, so my mum came to the city to visit because she was passing through. So I visited with her for a morning, and she was just like, she was a hardcore, COVID mask wearer a couple years ago, right? Like, I don't want to see anyone unless I wear my mask in my own house. And now she's like, yeah, I just went to go visit your grandma who's 95, and I'm feeling pretty sick, but I don't care. It's like, all right. Okay, Mom. But then she came by and visited.
Not you.
She came by and visited me, and then I'm pretty sure that Naomi and I got sick from it. And then my editor came back from a trip to Toronto, and he comes back and he's like, hey, I'm sick too. I was like, oh, great. So it's pretty rough right now.
Be sure to drink lots of water and eat lots of food. Nutrition.
I'm already fat, Kibs. I can't eat anymore.
Chicken noodle soup, boy.
My COVID isn't so bad, but my chest hurts. I don't know from like
Coughing.
if it's from coughing or what.
I know, like, during the last Tubcast when we had a Econo Boy on, you were, like, really out of it. You were really loopy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just how it goes sometimes.
COVID and brain fog.
It's okay. Econo Boy is always brain foggy. Ho 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 ho.
I have no idea who Econo Boy is. All I know is Artemis was complaining about him.
Oh yeah, fuck, he was going off. Jesus. Econo Boy Kibs is a friend of mine who has he basically just has like an economics degree, and he's not a socialist, because if you're an economist, you're not a socialist. But otherwise, he is like a redistributive capitalist kind of guy. He likes the social safety nets.
Who is a graduate student at the University of Chicago for economics, and University of Chicago is like perhaps the top econ school, and also like fairly right-leaning, and she is a communist.
What a retard.
Wow.
How can you go to study economy and end up a communist? At some point you think, oh shit, this doesn't work.
It
Well,
is
depends on your
very
professor.
interesting because you would not expect, like, from all the variables
Yeah.
about her.
I'd say we give Arch 7 more minutes, and if he's still not here, then he had a 10-minute leeway, and we just head on into it.
All right.
There we go.
Jesus.
Hang in there, Div. Take it easy, boy.
I'm still staying up to like 5 a.m. to edit this thing.
I stopped smoking since yesterday, and it's been a bit difficult, like not smoking today because I felt really big urge today.
You mean smoking weed?
Yeah.
You can't be a pothead anymore.
Yeah,
Take it easy.
I'm trying to like get my tolerance down.
I'm kind of like that with coffee sometimes. if I ever get to the point where I'm like I need 3 cups a day, I gotta go like cold turkey for a week.
I was trying edibles, like gummies, for a little bit, but I just like could not handle them. I didn't like how I would just like lose like massive chunks of like hours of time. Where I felt like I wasn't productive at all.
I don't know why, but like edibles just don't work for me.
That's
Like
right.
at all.
Tolerance is why.
Probably.
Probably, but
Yeah, no, I
like,
have very low tolerance as well, though.
I envy you.
See, the main reason that I don't like any sort of
You
drugs
don't toke up.
is the main reason I don't like any sort of drugs at all is because I don't want to like speed run life into an early grave, you know?
Look at Dev trying to live life safely. See, I'm in the position where it's like my dev team needs that money more than I do, so they get it.
Well, it's not necessarily safely. It's more that like, you know, if you take drugs and then you lose like a day, it's like, well, I gotta use that day, man. I'm not
Yeah.
that quick to
Luxury.
get life over with, you know?
That's how I feel. And even like sometimes I will still like be productive on like a day where I'm like where I smoked or took an edible, but it doesn't like feel productive. Like I'll come away from that day like having like gaps in my memory and stuff, and it's just a very uncomfortable feeling.
Should we call Arch before we give it up?
We can, but let me check battle.net and see if he's fucking. Nope. He's
What
not
is he
even in
playing?
there.
Is he playing World of Warcraft?
He has been because we got him back into it.
Oh God, Kibs,
for the
how
Steam
could you?
series.
Oh no.
I'm sorry, but I've gotten like 40 people to get back to Activision Blizzard.
Listen, I know you tried with me, but there's no way. All right.
See, the thing is, if I just treat it with indifference, Dev, you'll just be you'll have my lap in like 5 days.
I went back to WoW Classic back when that was new because that was like I had a little like guild going with
A
my
reboot?
with my server and it was kind of like a fun little thing. And then the Blitzchung stuff happened, and I was like, you know what? Nope, I can't support Blizzard anymore. So I just cold turkeyed it, never went back. But for that like 3 weeks that I was playing it, I got nothing done during those 3. It was like I was fucking 15 again, dude.
Yeah, I
You
haven't
have to set
installed
limits.
Battle.net since Blitzchung.
Did you know who Blitzchung was before the whole thing?
No,
What
but
is
I can still take a
Blitzchung?
stand.
We all didn't know. Like everybody I asked is like, "Who's Blitzchung?" Like, he's the guy who got canceled. Yeah, but who was he before then? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
like I think Overwatch streamer or something.
Wasn't it
Yeah.
Hearthstone? He was a streamer, but he was also at the time he was on Blizzard's. He was the caster for some esports thing that Blizzard. It was either Overwatch or Hearthstone, but actually, was he the winner of it? No, he was the guy who. No, that's right. He was the guy who won the tournament, and he was given like his moment to say what he wanted to say. Because as soon as you win, you're like, well, what do you think about? Like,
So he brought
Yeah.
up politics at the event.
because he won the event, and he said, well, I support the Hong Kong protests. And
Well, I personally don't think you should bring up politics in a event like that.
right, but here's the
You
thing:
shouldn't take away the reward either.
they took away his win, and they basically kicked him out of esports. And the entire internet fucking lost its mind, especially
Mhm.
because Blizzard is so partisan for politics in other areas, including certain types of, you know, like
Yep.
very very kind of woke lefty politics when it suits them.
And China, they sell their game there too.
Yeah. So, but because this was you know a pro-democracy, anti-Chinese sentiment, Blizzard basically locked it down. They fucking went full authoritarian on it. But then as soon as the entire internet like raged at them, they cut him back to like a 6-month ban or something. And everyone's like, this is
It
still
was
unacceptable. Like, fuck you.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
The best response from Blizzard should have been, "Sorry, we fucked up. We apologize. Here's the reparation bucks." And brush it under the
Reparation
rug.
bucks.
They should have. That's what I
Well-
would have done if I was in charge.
The thing is that like
Yeah, seems
China's,
right.
you know, China has a lot of you know,
China's breathing down their neck, so they're caught in a rock
Yeah.
and a hard place if they want to
Yeah.
support their game there. Because
Well,
they
well, here's
they
the
have
thing.
to.
But
balance
honestly,
that.
them responding the way they did brought way more attention
Well, yeah, it
than
wouldn't
it would
have
have ever otherwise.
if they had just left it alone. It would have been fine. Yeah. So here's the thing: because like a few weeks later they had BlizzCon, right? And it's
they're-
come out since then. It's been years
Yeah.
since this happened now. I think it's been 3 or 4 years. But it came out since then that like all of the English side of Blizzard did not support any of this shit at all, and it was all like Chinese influence. And basically they allowed people to protest at BlizzCon, and they allowed people to come up to the mic and voice their complaints at them at BlizzCon, and a few people did, and they just said, "Okay, thank you for your comment," and they just let it happen, and then it kind of fizzled out.
That's the way to take it on the chin.
Yep.
Well,
They
it
didn't,
should have
like-
been from the get-go.
But it was a big shit show for a while. It was
So
fucking
in the
huge.
end, Western Blizzard did the right thing, would you say, or the wrong thing?
They still didn't unban the guy. He still got his punishment, which I don't agree with. But
Which
well, 'cause, like,
is a bit silly.
for example, if you watch like an MMA match and the winner wins, he usually says something that's a little bit personal to him when he like wins his fight, right? That's pretty common. So the fact that they punished him for saying a pro Hong Kong thing simply under the auspices of you can't bring politics into this, when like, man, if it had happened like now and someone was doing like a pro Ukraine thing, no one would say a thing. It'd be like, okay,
They would be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They're all biased. Most developers are at this point.
yeah,
They have foreign influence, and also the executives. The executives don't really care about keeping it out either. Like whatever. If it makes profit, it makes profit. They'll put whatever little prayers for fucking Ukraine or prayers for Russia on their little companies if they think it'll win them over PR sales.
yep. So Taftaz, you watched my 3 forms of fascism video, right?
I did.
What'd you think of it?
Thought it was pretty good. I don't know. I think that including some sorts of like more modern authoritarianism in fascism, I think is like maybe a little bit questionable. I know that I asked you afterwards if you would include hot in the definition for fascism. I feel like in my mind, there's a clear distinction between like fascism and then like pre-modern reactionary ideologies. And I think that like you can have a reactionary belief system that is based on ideas that are like autocratic or aristocratic, and that maybe like it ends up having very authoritarian characteristics, but I wouldn't necessarily call it fascism. And so I think that like I maybe think that post-fascism is like too broad of a category.
Yeah, a lot of people on the right have said that, and here's the thing, before even just getting into that claim, it's like the video that I made wasn't even my opinion. It was me outlining what I've read. You know what I mean? Like I listed a bunch of books and I was like, okay, well, here's what they all say, and this is basically where the academics are going with this line of thought right now. And yet everyone thinks that I made that up. That I made up the post-fascism thing. And it's like, no. I thought it was clear up and like it was very clear up until before then. You know what I mean?
I've definitely heard people use post-fascism as well elsewhere.
Yeah. But the thing is that a lot of the people who basically I'm just like banning and ignoring, but who are feuding with me right now, I would put them in that camp, and they're all calling me retarded, but they're all doing the same things that I said in the video, and it's like, well, at some point that's just what you are, you know? Like, fuck.
How would you classify Mussolini to?
He was a classical fascist. He was the
No, I mean,
classical fascist.
No, the female Mussolini. That's why I said
Oh.
Mussolini too.
That's right. I don't think she's a fascist, no.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, really.
No, I don't think so.
Huh.
What's the female Mussolini?
She's like the new PM of Italy. Yeah. No. Here's the
Oh.
thing. You know, saying things like, we want immigrants to integrate into Italian culture doesn't make it fascist. Like, that's a very normal belief, you know?
Actually, that's more progressive than Mussolini. Mussolini was like, we should spread the... Well, the quick way to tell if she's fucking Mussolini or not is if she has the idea of the Mare Nostrum. Like the Great Italian Lake. That might be a bit problematic.
I mean, she uses a lot of like Mussolini's symbology. Like she was adopted symbols that are associated with him, and actually like symbols that had been phased out of the party and then were readopted
What kind of
before
symbols?
her coming to power. It's the tricolor flame specifically.
Oh well, that was used before the fascists
Yeah,
took over. Though
that was
was
a
like
Yeah,
the
but
Italian
so is the
nationalists.
faces, right?
Well, yeah. Well, the
That's
Americans
cool.
still use the faces.
Right. So like you can have symbols that are like used beforehand, but are specifically like very associated with the things that have come after. And I think that the tricolor flame is one of those such symbols.
Maybe
At
in
some
Italy it
point,
is.
symbols have to be sort of used for what they were originally. It's like the swastika, which is the symbol of Indo-Europeans.
I think you're right. So like eventually the swastika will lose prominence, but we're specifically talking about like a far right Italian leader who
Mhm.
uses the same rhetoric and uses the same symbols as a
I mean,
previous
some
Italian right
of
leader.
the same rhetoric, right? But not all of it. I mean, there's certainly no corporative economy in what she's talking about. Like that's not part of the conversation at all. And that was one of Mussolini's core things was the corporative economy.
I think one of the reasons why people are so reticent or like people are so hesitant to call her a fascist is just because fascism is such a dirty word. I think that if you
Mm.
saw the same, so we're much more careful with its boundaries than with other things. Like
You know,
compare that to liberalism, where like if someone was like sort of similar to Locke but had like differences and like their language was a little bit altered, I think we'd still call them a liberal. And
yeah, yeah. Also,
yeah.
I'm not sure if that tracks though, because on the internet, everyone's a fucking fascist.
Yeah, everyone like Arch got canceled over being accused of being fascist.
I mean,
Right?
everyone gets accused of being a fascist by people who don't like them, right? And that's the
Yeah.
key thing, is that like I think right-wing people are very quick to be like, no, she's not a fascist, because they'll get like very, careful with these definitions all of a sudden.
Well, a lot of those definitions also lose their bite. My German friend, apparently being called a Nazi in Germany has no sway on the younger generations
They
because
don't
the
give a
government
fuck.
has overdone it. They accused everyone of being a Nazi all the time, the opposition, that now people no longer care. And it basically began, what do they call it, carte blanche, to basically, if somebody accuses you of that, you can be as amoral as possible to them. Because they already basically just called you the N-word in Germany.
Let's see here. So, she's a right-wing populist and Italian nationalist. She's far right. I mean, she rejects the label of far right, but I mean, I think I'm pretty sure she's far right. She's a Catholic Christian. I mean, Mussolini wasn't a Catholic. He did. The fascists.
You don't
didn't
have
really-
to be a carbon copy of Mussolini to be
Yeah.
a
True.
fascist.
She's a conservative. Well, here's the thing: the fascists didn't like conservatives either, because they were revolutionary and they had plans to remake society, and the conservatives didn't like that generally. Defend God, fatherland, and family. She's opposed to abortion, euthanasia. She's opposed to partnerships, marriages, and parenting by same-sex couples. She's opposed to the reception of non-European migrants and multiculturalism.
She sounds like more like Victor Emmanuel, the
Yeah.
soldier king. Because that's the opposite of Mussolini.
She's a supporter of NATO. She's a Eurosceptic regarding the EU. And she was in favor of better relations with Russia until the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and now she now condemns Russia, and she sends arms to Ukraine now. Since now she's
She
PM.
did praise Mussolini,
Yes.
as well as say collaborator Giorgio Almontrente.
Well, hold on. She praised Mussolini in 1996 when she was a teenager. Now,
That's true.
everyone has an edgy past, I'm sure. Yeah,
I
on the
sort
other
of
hand,
think that like
she has condemned both the suppression of democracy as well as Italy's anti-Jewish laws from
Look at us.
38
None of us are
onward.
Italian, and we're commenting on Italian politics.
Hold on,
I
I'm
get it.
Italian.
You're not. You're Canadian. That's not how this works. You're a plastic spaghetti meatball. Americans have this obsession with claiming that we're Irish, we're German. Like, no, we're not Irish, we're not German, we're American. Quit being a plastic patty.
I know what you mean.
It
No,
pisses the hell out of natives from those countries.
she's got a section on relationship with fascism. You could read that.
All right, let's take a look at it. Where did I put it? But yeah, just
That sounds
from what I've read, after all
Give
the
us your sweet reading voice, Dev.
all the all the incredibly boring shit that I've read on fascism. She doesn't sound like a fascist. She sounds
I know.
she sounds she sounds like a very strict conservative, but I mean she's not
Call a spade a
she's
spade.
she's not like anti-democracy, you know? And that's kind of an important component. She's not violence. She's not like pro-violence for the sake of violence. You know, there's.
I mean, does she use the black shirts? There's your real answer.
Does she have black shirts? Okay, let's see.
Because Mussolini used black shirts to beat his opposition, which became the foundation of Antifa later on.
Let's see here. You see, when she praised Mussolini, she said he's a good politician and that everything he did for Italy. That's very much a you gotta hand it to him kind of compliment, you know? Where it's like, I don't agree with it, but...
She, yeah, okay. So apparently she was the one also to add the tricolor flame to the flag.
Oh, yeah? Hold on, she says that...
Yeah, she seems pretty fashy.
Here's one thing that I don't like, the whole like Mussolini's descendants thing. It's like I don't think we should be going after Mussolini's descendants. They're different people. Like leave them alone.
Well, remember, humans are barbaric. We'll accuse kin of everything because we do that. People are quick to accuse each other of being fascist.
I
but
disagree,
people are
Dev. They
quick
should
to,
have done to Mussolini's descendants what they did to the Romanovs.
Nah, it's ridiculous.
No,
That's
don't
insane.
say that.
That's sickening.
That's not good. I do think that like the problem with like monarchical lineages though is that like historically you did often see the killing of descendants just because like you wanted to prevent people potentially claiming access to legitimate power.
Yeah.
And therefore like starting revolutionary things. But like I think that especially with like Italian like descendants of Mussolini or that like monarchical like heritage.
Actually, they have a monarchical line though, don't they? That's from
They
Victor
do.
Emmanuel
They
III.
had, yeah.
But it's not through Mussolini.
No, it's not.
Mhm.
Some of the core components of being a fascist are being like anti-truth, basically anti-compromise and anti-democracy. Like those are more important than just blanket racism, for example.
Press censorship is huge for fascist regimes.
So if like I don't know, I don't see her as a fascist. I don't.
Well, what's she doing to the press? Because that'll tell you quickly.
Yeah. Or if she's like,
them? I don't know.
or if she's suppressing, suppressing the vote, that'll be a big part of it.
Oh yeah, that without a doubt. That means you need to be thrown out of office immediately.
And like a lot of her views are like just kind of normal, strong right views. Being anti-gay marriage. I don't agree with it, but like not every single person who's anti-gay marriage, for example, isn't a fascist, right? So you can oppose a person without having to resort to the most extreme label you can slap on.
I think it might be warranted in this case, Steph.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't she belong to
I think
like,
if you're gonna call
what is essentially
any single
the
politician
Italian
like,
fascist party?
fascist, I think that like she would be the one.
I don't know. I actually might think that Orban is closer.
Okay, yeah, god damn it. So,
yes.
but I mean, like of politicians you can accuse of being a fascist, I think that she's got to be up there.
Pretty much every single person in Russia and China who's a
I mean,
politician.
Russia.
I would also say
who's
that
who's a
China is,
politician?
like, a fascist state and
Yes.
an example of like a very successful.
I think Russia's got to be probably one of the closer ones because of their authoritarian regime.
Well,
They
let's
are very
see.
nasty.
Let's see what happens when Giorgia Meloni loses an election. Let's see what
Giorgia
she
Meloni?
does. That's
Who
the
is
person we're
that?
talking about.
Oh, is she
Italian-
currently the prime minister?
She just won. Let's see what happens when she loses an election. And see what she does. If she throws a big old fit and tries to stay in, then maybe you have a point. The reason that a lot of the academics I read called it post-fascist is because it's supposed to be both a critique and a continuation of fascism. Because that's what postmodernism is to modernism, right? So,
Mhm.
Oh, you consider like Moldbug to be post-fascist, right?
a lot of the people that I read considered him, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
okay,
a lot of the
that's interesting
NRXers.
too.
A lot of the
Because, like,
NRXers consider
He's
him to be
very
fascist.
he's like very explicitly anti-fascism in his work. I mean,
Mhm.
anti-fascism like is kind of a term that's co-opted by the left, but he very explicitly like denounces fascism.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he's considered part of that group. Under
Here's the thing: the new Italian PM, she has also like explicitly denounced fascism as well.
I think that's true, but it's harder with like a politician versus like a philosopher.
Yeah, that's for sure. The whole point of post-fascism was fascist ideology without a fascist state. It's a stateless fascism, which sounds like a contradiction. It is a contradiction, but like a lot of the more like anarchist or quasi-libertarian ideologies are also just contradictions anyway. So it's not like this is new. There's a lot of ideologies that just don't work. All right, Kibs, you want to give Arch a ring before we start?
I will call him. But I think the poor lad's probably unconscious and sleeping.
Yeah, if he's still sick, I don't blame him.
I know he wasn't doing very well. What?
Yeah.
Oh, no, never mind.
What did
I
he
thought
need?
I heard the answering sound for a second. I didn't. He is deader than a doornail.
It seems like it.
I think that maybe one of the things that the video was missing was like a more thorough critique or response to these ideas. Because I think you did present them, just kind of like, these are the ideas.
Yeah, that's
but
all
because
the
you
video
didn't
was, yeah.
but because you didn't like really, present critiques of those ideas, I think that's why your audience is responding to it like, is this so stupid, or like, why do you believe this, is kind of the response that you've gotten.
To be fair, I've only gotten that response from like a minority of people I have been watching. A lot of them just really like the video.
Okay.
Most of them took it the way that I intended, which is like an informative kind of thing.
I will say though, if your goal was just to be informative, I do think that message would be bolstered by kind of showing the other half of it, and then being like, this is what the academics are saying, but like, this might be some critiques. Because I think that post-fascism and the idea of like a stateless fascism, I think that that really neatly leads into a sort of leftist critique of hierarchy in general. If you look at like, the private sector and these like private autocracies where they're deeply hierarchical, they're non-democratic, I'm speaking of most private organizations, most companies.
Yep.
Their method for deciding things is based on shareholders, which is effectively based on how much wealth that you're willing to put into the company, how much wealth you're able to stake on its success. The idea that like that is a legitimate form of governance, and in fact a good way to govern things, I think is something that a lot of people who would be grouped into the post-fascist camp would agree with. And I think that maybe it gives like the left a lot of power to basically use fascists as a bludgeon, include them in this group, and kind of tarnish the idea that these forms of societal organization are, valid forms of hierarchy with the fascist label. So I think that might be like, I'm just kind of spitballing, but I think that would be like one immediate surface level critique, that by not addressing that, I think that you kind of implicitly give credence to the more lefty position on it.
That's kind of why I opened with Destiny talking about ideas over labels, because I think that's a great way to figure it out, is that, when someone says fascist, they don't just mean, oh, they feel this way about the economy, they feel this way about the state, they feel this way about in-group preference, they feel this way about democracy. They also include in that label a moral condemnation. And if you want to just discuss the ideas, it's probably useful in some situations to just abandon the label of fascist, because there's a moral condemnation baked into that label that makes talking about the ideas themselves really hard.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. And I think that's probably why people like Italy's new prime minister, they're never going to openly, describe themselves as fascist. And it's not like really most other political organizations or political belief systems like, liberal or progressive or SOCDEM or whatever, all these mainstream beliefs, because those don't carry like the same moral condemnation with them.
Well, I'm pretty sure socialists should. We'll get there one day, though.
Should perhaps, yeah.
if you find somebody who, he's anti-democratic, and he's like revolutionary. He's very pro-violence, and he's there's a lot there about, let's say, in-group preference. Doesn't mind telling lies to gain a political advantage. You could group all those things together and call this person a fascist, but and you'd be accurate. But what you're really doing is you're just like adding a moral weight to it, and that might not be helpful if you're actually talking to a person like that. I haven't read a shit ton of Moldbug, but I'm pretty sure that he was fine with all of those things in the end. There was a lot of power for power's sake in Moldbug's ideas.
I don't know. Moldbug is very hard to like sort of tease out in a lot of ways, just because his ideas have like changed so much and like shifted over time. Like if you go back to like some of his earlier work, he's like he's just much less of a serious thinker to the extent that he ever was or ever has been. And so you'll read some works by him, and it's like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And then it just like goes off the rails. And he's talking about like unproductive people should be turned into biofuel. And then the next like chapter, he's like, okay, people were really angry about that last one. And I want to just say I was trolling. And it's like, okay, like, what do you believe here?
It would seem my statements has caused some controversy.
I mean, the way that I sort of conceptualize it is that you have modern ideologies like fascism, communism, and liberalism. And I think all of them kind of had the same position. And I'm going to say this and it's going to be controversial, but I'll explain what I mean.
Go for
And that's
it.
that the quote unquote people ought to rule. But I think the difference between all three of these belief systems was they disagreed about what constituted the people. So I think that communists, they saw that the way liberal democracy worked, and they said, well, if you just allow anyone to vote and to make decisions, what you end up having happen is this small group of wealthy elites ends up dominating everything. And in order to return power to the people, you got to elevate the proletariat, who are like the true people. And then I think what fascists said were like, well, the true people are actually those who embody like the spirit of the state and the nation. So Mussolini, describing himself as desperately Italian, and then Hitler making many of Mussolini's beliefs very manifest. And his works, outright pretty much state this, like, to be part of the German people, to be part of the people, you have to have this German blood. And that's what makes you a legitimate state actor. And then I think that the liberals had this, more open approach of just like, you have to be a citizen. And I think that Moldbug kind of looks at that paradigm where he says, okay, all of these modern ideologies want the people to rule, but disagree about what constitutes the people. And then he says, well, I actually don't want the people to rule. I want the elites to rule. And he's very like explicit about this in a way that I think sets him apart ideologically and puts him more in line with these like more ancient reactionary philosophies that we'll talk about, like blue blood of nobles, and the idea that some people are just like more inherently fit, divined by God and genetics or whatever to rule. And so I think that that would be like a break point that is pretty significant as far as the conceptualization of what legitimizes power and how that differs.
Yeah. But here's the thing: the more that I read about like, I guess, fascist third wave, the third wave fascists, they ended up crossing over with those ideas a lot more than you might think, because like the end point of like German scientism ended up leading down some like the same kind of genetic fitness path in the same way, and the fascists had no problem in the end, at least in practicality, embracing elite theory. So I definitely think there's a lot of overlaps here, which is, and I think that's why a lot of academics have characterized it as fascist ideology without a fascist state. Because I think the ideology without the state apparatus does end up sounding and working a lot like what you've described here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's I guess the question would be like, would you be willing to retroactively call historical regimes, like pre-modern historical regimes that were autocratic fascists? And I think that if you're willing to include them in the fascist label, or the, you know, even to call them post-fascist in a way, then I think that that's like a coherent, consistent statement.
Yeah, I know what you
But
mean.
I also think that that's kind of awkward to do.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think like one place that they might break pretty heavily actually is in belief in God, because a lot of the old reactionaries, like the De Maistre types, a lot of the and a lot of like the absolute monarchies, they all claim their legitimacy from God. But the post-fascists didn't. They simply claimed their legitimacy just a priori, power for power's sake.
I mean, I think that like in the sort of deep right, dissident right circles, you definitely get different justifications. Like there is a big contingent of people who are just like theocratic fascists and do believe that like power ultimately comes from God and divine right to rule. But then there are other people who I think are like more like Moldbug. And Moldbug has said that like the ideal monarch would be like a transsexual who would like not worry about the monarchical like hereditary line and would just be like totally focused on the actual work. He's just like very like, he doesn't care about tradition or anything. He just wants like efficiency and competency. So there's like, there is quite a spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, that still kind of sounds like it, because the fascists, like they didn't really care about tradition, not really. Like they cared about appearing to be traditional, but the actual traditions themselves, they were fine to dismantle them if it served their interests, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's like necessarily core to fascism, but I think that you look at some of these fascists and how they approach tradition, like the idea that you should create a kind of like semi-mythological tradition and belief system in order to like elevate your state. I think it's something that's not really rooted in the traditional conservative approach, which is very sort of reverent. And the fascist approach is just like, we need to create the ultimate, you know, mythology, belief system, state religion for people. And that's definitely a different approach. But I think that both are ultimately, like the claim is that, well, we have these ancient practices that we can like, that gain value specifically for their age and their rootedness in our history. Whereas I think Moldbug is not like that at all, where he's just like, you know, it doesn't matter if something's old. The only thing that matters is efficiency.
It sounds like you're a big old Moldbug simp.
I can also critique him if that'll make things easier. I read his book and he talks about why the global warming lobby is wrong, and his reasoning is that his mother worked with a politician who is very pro fighting climate change, and his mother said the guy was a liar and not cool. And that was all he said on that
Settles
topic.
it.
That's
And I
all,
was
that's all
like,
it
wow,
takes, eh?
great
Global
point.
warming isn't real.
Oh god, wait, Tash, was it you who sent me that like art critique show with more Moldbug was there?
Yeah.
That read like a shit show.
And he just comes off as like such a nerd.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone there called him a fascist, but like the guy who was writing it was a leftist, so I'm not surprised, you know?
Yeah, no, that was so goofy.
I'm sure at some point I'm gonna have to like dive deeper into the fascist ideology without a fascist state thing, because clearly it left some people grumbly, but I think there was overall a pretty good reaction to the video. I know.
I will invite you in, Dev.
Sorry, what?
I will invite you in I will get you to delve deep into these circles. You will take the plunge with me. It'll be great.
Oh god, you're gonna convert me into a fascist, aren't you?
No, no, no.
I know Erudite watched it. Not so Erudite. And
Oh,
she
cool.
said it was a really good video. I was like, oh, thanks. At the same time, though, like I'm not sure that fascism is honestly all that relevant anymore in the grand scheme of things. At least not in the United States, you know,
I don't know.
and certainly not in Canada. I think things are pretty chill, especially here. Maybe Europe will see a revitalization of it, you know.
I think
my
there's
God.
definitely going to be a.
The
Europeans
fascists.
causing
Fascist.
problems. God, color me surprised.
You think the fascists are coming back?
Not really. Mostly just from my Euro friends over there. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think what's happening now is there's just a schism. As long as nothing crazy happens, it'll probably be mended. But it's all on them to fix their own shit.
And I think the other thing too is that, like, with Russia's thus far disastrous campaign in Ukraine,
Oh God, yeah.
and also with China's like impending demographic issues and social unrest and economic recession, I think that the West has for a while now kind of seen itself as an underdog and like very much like kind of beset on all sides by these very powerful players. It's seen itself very much in decline. I think that when we see like these ideological enemies sort of being revealed to be paper tigers, I think that might give a lot of renewed confidence in Western and liberal traditions, which I think
Yeah, I
would be
think
really
so too. Yeah.
nice. Like I don't consider myself to be a liberal, like capital L liberal, but I think that a vigorous and united commitment to liberalism and all of its goods would be far preferable to the incredible division and kind of the backbiting and the way that currently leftism has adopted all of these very anti-liberal beliefs like critical race theory.
Hey, wait a second. If you're not a capital L liberal, then what are you?
I don't know what I am.
I knew you were a fascist in the end.
Big secrets revealed.
I'm a really cool person.
You know I'm still recording this,
Like a
right?
Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. I want everyone to hear this.
Wow.
It's kind of funny. Like I've actually met like a number of trans women who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm a fascist." Post-fascist sounds fine. It's like, oh, okay.
Bit of a plot twist.
Why? But I mean, all right.
I do have an internal, I guess I would say I'm a technocrat is how I describe myself. I
Okay.
just think that like very competent people should be put in charge and they should be paid very well. They should be able to extract a lot of resources from the system if they do well. And if they don't, they should be punished and they should feel the consequences.
So sort of like a meritocracy, you think?
Yeah, like a very strict meritocracy.
But that's not equal.
It's not because
The
people
world's
are
not equal.
unequal in their abilities.
We're a whole group of fascists here. Here, Lilith, give me your best fasci take. Go.
Wow.
Yeah, Lilith.
Hitler, something, Mussolini, whatever.
Well, actually, Lilith, I still maintain, Lilith, that you're a socialist at heart.
I'm not a socialist.
Listen, we argued over gender abolition earlier, like a few months ago. You're totally
I
a
didn't-
socialist.
I didn't say gender evolution was like a goal.
Well, you did it. We were talking about the sports thing.
Yeah, I said I didn't really care if they want to make sports genderless. It doesn't really matter to me.
I think you might have been a bit stronger than that in the conversation. I have to go look, I guess, but I recall you being like very much like it's good to make things more equal. Why shouldn't we desegregate? It's like desegregating the races. And I'm like, wait a minute.
What we should do is
Wait a minute.
use technology to make men and women absolutely equal.
I don't know
So
about
there
that.
will be no problems when it comes to sports at all.
But I want
Segregating their gender.
a class of people to be inferior to me.
You know, I was thinking about the other day, Lilith. because I was driving in my car, or specifically, I took an Uber to my car, and I realized that for the time
an
that I
Uber to
didn't
your
have my
car?
car, yeah, because I like left it in a place and then I hung out with
Okay,
friends.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I got the Uber to the car, and I realized that for the period when I didn't have my car, I felt very vulnerable. And I
Mhm.
realized that like having the car and having the ability to charge my phone and to go anywhere was really like, it's this great equalizer in a way, because when you're surrounded by this hunk of metal, everyone's surrounded by a hunk of metal. And it kind of occurred to me that like my ability to navigate through a city at night as, you know, a lone woman is something that like historically was just like very difficult to do, and now is possible because of the equalization of technology. And
I
I
mean, also the
wondered
fact that
if that would happen more.
you're like 5'1" and like 110 pounds or something. Aren't you tiny?
Oh, not at all.
Um,
I'm giant. I'm
I don't know.
6'5".
I don't know about that. I've seen
Oh my
Oh,
god.
Ryan.
I've seen some pictures. I don't think you're that tall.
Yeah, I'm 6'5". I tower over everyone.
Actually, how tall are you? Actually, I'm 5'7", and I think Lilith, you're 5'7" as well.
I'm
I'm like
taller than
5'8".
both of you. I'm 5'10".
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
You don't look it at all.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people say that.
Did you tower over
I don't
Destiny when
think-
you saw him?
I was a little bit taller than him. I was about 1 inch shorter than Vosh.
Really?
So
Doesn't Vosh call himself like 6'2"?
yes, okay. Now I don't want to start beef with Vosh because I enjoy hanging out with him very much. He did say, he was like, we're basically the same height. And I was like, Vosh, you motherfucker.
See, I don't lie about that kind of. Like, I actually am 5'7". Like, if I was gonna lie, why the fuck would I say 5'7"? You know what I mean? But yeah, I guess that's true because now that I have my own wheels as well, Naomi and I got a car. It makes a lot of things a lot easier, getting around. You don't gotta like plan your trip around taking buses or other people getting rides from other people. There's definitely like a freeing aspect to it. That's why all the
Yeah,
elites
for
don't
sure.
want you to have cars and live in walkable cities and take the
So
bus
true.
instead.
So
You gotta
true. They want you
live-
dependent. They want you muzzled, eating
Yeah.
bugs.
Oh, that was actually part of the conversation too. Like a lot of
Hell
the people who objected were like their complaint was that the people that I was describing were just people who wanted to be free from the liberal, the liberal managerial system. And it's like, okay, yeah,
I
fair
wanna
enough.
own a house and own a car and eat steaks.
Yeah, like, fair enough, right? But the people that I'm describing specifically, like the post-fascists, they only use that desire for freedom as a justification to
For
implement
enslavement.
their own structure afterwards. They don't actually want people to be free.
Mhm.
Like that's a big difference. I think that's why a lot of libertarians often get suckered into basically helping fascists out, because they're all talking about freedom. Let's break away from the state, but then the fascists turn around and just re-implement it. A lot of libertarians tend to confuse shrinking the state with centralizing the state.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that can be it's not that they confuse it; it's that they just kind of have the wool pulled over their eyes. When like a government's like, okay, well, we're gonna get rid of this government program, or this government bureaucracy, or this department, and the libertarians are like, yeah, but then like that power just goes into someone else's hands. The actual power of the state hasn't shrunk; it's just that it's been kind of obfuscated. This is something I have to look into a little bit more, because I only covered it on the surface in the Kenobi video. It was in reference to the Emperor, obviously, but
No, there's some points to that. Like, lots of libertarians balk at like suggesting like we fix the healthcare system.
yeah, I mean, a lot of America's healthcare problems come from insurance, right? But to dismantle your absolutely terrible fucking insurance industry is going to take state intervention. If we're not talking morality, so take the moral component out of it, one of the big negatives of a fascist system is the fact that power is so centralized that you have like a single point of failure. So when the great leader dies, your entire system just destabilizes and goes into disarray. And I think a lot of people, I have to explore this idea a little bit more, but I think that there's something there where, like, I think some libertarians end up supporting things that help fascists just because they want to dismantle the state, but it ends up just centralizing it, and that's like a hidden consequence of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's this very like Hoppian line of argumentation where it's like, well, we can't achieve like true, pure anarcho-capitalism, but like the second best thing is just have like privately run monarchical corporations, which I think that like it runs very much into the same problem, and like a lot of the logic just kind of breaks down, even though that like I kind of tend to run into these circles and be like empathetic. I ultimately don't think it works out. And it's for reasons like that, like the one that you mentioned, as far as things collapsing when the great leader dies, among others. And it's definitely an issue.
And I think a lot of people who read Hop, they come out of it thinking that the only way we can have a truly libertarian society is to make a high trust society so that it actually works. You end up like going for like mono-ethnic societies. It's like you only have libertarianism if it's all one ethnicity or like things like that. And it kind of degenerates pretty quickly.
I think there's like a grain of truth in that, where like if you go out into the suburbs in America or out into these like rural communities that are doing pretty good, so like not the rural communities that are, you know, in total disarray or like slowly crumbling, whatever. These are areas that require very little policing and very little regulation of things, because people trust each other and people work with each other and people know each other's reputations, and there's just, you know, they tend to be very low crime in a lot of ways. And so they very much like literally don't need the kind of government intervention that other places need. Like you can trust a lot of these people to have guns and whatnot. But I think that the issue is that a lot of other areas just aren't like that. And I think that like the goal, and this is kind of where I'm very much sympathetic to libertarians, is like the goal is to make it so society is to a point where people can be trusted to self-govern. And ideally, you develop the kind of society where people do get along and are able to have that kind of trust. And I think that it is very much like, in a way, a coward's way out to just say like, well, everyone needs to be the same race. I think that in somewhere like America, there's this incredible political project, which is of diversity and of, you know, uniting people across these cultural boundaries. And I think that America has done that really well, to our credit. And I have a lot of hope that we can do that in the future and bring ourselves to a point where lots of very different people are able to live together without massive government oversight.
Let's hope.
Sounded
Jesus
French.
Christ, what the fuck did you just send me, Taftash?
Oh my god.
The responses are really funny to me. Like a born natural.
Non-binary actor from the House of the Dragon, Emma D'Arcy, who uses they them pronouns, says, I really like playing women, and I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
It might be because you're a woman.
A born natural.
The more that I've thought about it and the more that I've looked into it, the more that I've realized that like 99% of my opposition to all the current trans shit is just part of bringing non-binary under the trans label. Like, that's fucking insane.
What does that mean? You gotta translate, Dev. I don't follow these things.
Kibs, do I have to translate?
Yeah, literally.
All right. Non-binary is what we called, when we were younger, androgynous. People who are like...
Oh, so they just switched names. Gotcha.
They don't feel particularly masculine or feminine, you know?
Mm.
And the current big push is that a non-binary person is now trans, and so is entitled to all of the weight and the righteousness of like the trans struggle, even
So,
though
did they
most
have to
non
be?
even though most non-binary people are like just regular girls who look like regular girls who use she they pronouns, and they like to wear jeans more than they like to wear skirts. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Like, there's nothing trans about you, you know?
So that's more like tomboyish behavior, is what we
Yeah.
call that back in like the 80s before
It's
I was alive.
tomboy erasure, god damn it, and I won't stand for it.
It's a bit mean. People can wear what they want, but I don't want to see how that has to do with sexuality.
I don't care about tomboy erasure at all.
What? You're
No,
oh
I
my
don't.
God.
That's
Discrimination
ridiculous.
against tomboy.
Ridiculous.
I
That
think if
is
people want to
great.
be non-binary instead of, or trans instead of like a tomboy, then that's fine. It's not
Yeah, no,
erasure.
that's
I think
fine.
the problem
Yeah,
is
but
that like trans activism cannot decide if it's like a cultural minority or if it's a medical minority. And I think that like the non-binary stuff really plays into that. And also questions about like, you know, if you can be trans with or without dysphoria. I think that like these have really thrown a wrench into things because it's much harder to defend the idea that like everyone should adopt the cultural viewpoint that
Makes it more difficult. Sorry,
that
I
like
didn't mean to
trans
interrupt
women
you.
are women, right? For example, you know, it's my position that people should like respect trans people, but like you don't need to force everyone to believe that trans women are women. I think that that's kind of like an open philosophical question. And as long as you're like respecting people's humanity, it's okay if you believe that trans women are not in fact women, or that like non-binary identities aren't like a true fact of nature or something like that. And I think that like you can have polite philosophical disagreements while also respecting people's autonomy to choose what they want for their own body, for example, through like hormones or whatever. And I think that's like a much easier position to defend and one that's ultimately sustainable. And so when we see like these like non-binary movements or just like, you know, movements that kind of push our understanding of transgenderism away from like a understanding that is rooted in medical reality, I think that that's when we start getting into this kind of sketchy territory.
Well, I didn't think this would be today's topic, but yeah.
Arch is not waking up, I guess. Wait,
What
hold
a
on.
twist. What?
Tasha, didn't you just do a debate on? I think I watched part of it. A debate on whether or not transitioning actually works.
I did, yeah.
How did that go?
It went okay. I think I could have done a lot better than what I did. My like a debate opponent, doesn't believe that we should look at studies in medical journals because he believes that they're like, you know, inherently sort of like biased and that we can't really respect them. And so his like position is to kind of look at the data and then like take it out and do his own calculations on it, which I think is like epistemologically really not a good method. And I kind of begin to hit on that like more and more as the debate goes on. But I think that like I could have done like a lot more on that front. And I think not hitting on it as much as I could have was a mistake. So I think it went okay, but I think I let him get away with like saying a lot of things and like bogging the conversation down and things where like we really shouldn't have been, rather than getting to the heart of the matter.
What was his position in the end?
Well, he believes that like he just like has this feeling that people shouldn't transition, and then if we allow people to transition, we're gonna like cause more people to be trans, and more people are gonna suffer as a result of that.
Oh, it's like the social contagion argument.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. What was your position in there?
Oh,
Because I know that
I
like you've
think
had
that-
like a back and forth on the efficacy of whether or not transitioning works.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that like my whole point is that the efficacy or like the evidence is like not that strong, but it does all point in one direction. So I think that like
Yeah.
I don't think that transitioning should be banned ultimately. I'm not sure like how efficacious it is. And I think what I always tell people is that like the evidence is not that strong. And so I get in a lot of trouble, but I don't go as far as he does, where he's like, there's no evidence for this, and like it's all bullshit or whatever. And so I was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
arguing against that position.
Right. I'm going to assume that Arch is not arriving. That's what it sounds like. That's
I
what
think
it seems
that's
like.
a good assumption.
He's probably knocked out. Like I sent him a
Alright.
gift to try to lift his spirits, and he sent me a weak response, basically, "Thanks," and then sounded ill.
Wait, did he actually talk to you, or?
That was much earlier in the day. That was like
Oh.
he was up at a peculiar hour because I woke up and I was like, because I invited him to be a part of Battle Damage Studios. I was just bringing him up to speed with what the project was doing, and he
Yep.
was awake. 5:53 a.m. was his last response to me, which
Oh,
is very
jeez.
early for him, by the way.
Yeah, he's probably fucked.
So he's probably unconscious. We should let him rest.
All right, so do you want to start the show, or do you want to ramble on about nonsense for the next 5 hours?
I mean, I'm Minnesotan. I can.